Hey guys, how's it going? It's Mads Finds. I'm a part-time reseller on Poshmark, eBay, and Depop. I thought it would be fun today to go back over my favorite thrift finds of all time as a reseller. I always like going back over and seeing what has sold, especially items that I think are fun personally or that I got super excited when I found them because there's just something extra special about it when it sells. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. Remember, I was at a Goodwill and it was one of those where the shoe rack is just randomly scattered above the clothing rack, and I saw these shoes and I immediately knew that they were pretty cool because they're these black buckle heels, and they are a Jeffrey Campbell Free People collab. They sold super fast for $99 and I only paid $6 for them. And another brand is these Fear of God gray sweatpants. And I never thought I would really find it in the thrift store, but I found these and they were kind of like not pilly, but they had wear to them, and they sold within a day for $29, which I think is pretty good for a pair of like worn sweatpants. Then we have my first ever Amanda Upritchard piece that I found at the thrift store, and it was this green romper that was 100% polyester, and honestly you couldn't even tell it was Amanda Upritchard or anything of high quality, but it sold within a week for $75. So I was just astonished when that sold for that much, but looking at comps I was like, oh, so that seems pretty normal for this style, but I was absolutely shocked. Next is a Rami Brooke denim mini dress, sold for $55. And I always get so shocked finding these crazy expensive brands, like it probably retails for like $300, and I just think it's wild that someone paid $300 and then just ended up donating it. But I guess that's good news for us, and it makes it super exciting whenever you're sifting through some not so good items and then you get that like holy grail item. It's addicting, and I think that's what kind of makes being a reseller fun. Then a pretty recent item that I didn't really know was a brand, but it's kind of up and coming, I believe, and pretty popular. It's called Outer Known, and it was just this gray crew neck sweatshirt, and it sold within a week for $36, which I was astonished because I had no idea. Next up, we have a pair of Free People espadrille heels, and these were like super fun red kind of retro style, and I just thought they were super cool. My Goodwill prices shoes around $7, so this was $7 and it sold for $40. Like, I love finding shoes. They always retail for a lot more, so they sell for a bit more, especially if they're in good condition. The only thing I hate is I do not like packaging up shoes and how you have to put it in a box. It's so much slower than a shirt that you just throw into a mailer. Next are some Lily Pulitzer pieces, and I like picking up Lily Pulitzer, especially the bigger sizes and the vintage items. I find them to be kind of fun and different, so they're fun to pick up. But one was this like Kentucky Derby print dress, a vintage style. It sold for $85, and I think I could have actually gotten more for this after looking at comps, but I'm still very happy with $85 after spending $10 on it. And the same goes for this more modern piece. It was this neon pink lace dress that sold for $70, and I just think that's so crazy for these like super vibrant dresses. And we have a surprising find. So I actually do like going through swimsuits because not as many people shop there. So you can actually find some nice swimsuits that will sell for a good chunk of money, which is unexpected, especially used. There's this one piece that I found, never heard of the brand, but I was like, I'm just gonna look it up for fun. And it's called, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but it's probably French Fleur de Mal, and it's like a $300 swimsuit. Actually sold within a month, I believe, for $55, which I think is crazy for a used swimsuit, especially a brand I've never heard before, but that's what makes this so fun, is when things sell fast that you had no idea how to demand for it. Next, we have a fun find that I actually kind of regret just a little bit, and is these Anthropologie Maeve just pull-on pants. And the reason why I regret it is because at the thrift store there was I believe like 5 pairs, and they were all new attacks, like the exact same pattern, just like multiples of different sizes. And I only bought 2 of them because I was worried that if I bought all of them and then they never sold. They sold super quickly. One sold for $59, so I think that's really good for a pair of Anthropologie pants. So I'm kicking myself for that, but now I know maybe trust myself a little bit more, but then I feel like I'm going to do it. I'm just gonna screw myself over because they're just gonna sit around. And so I don't know if you've seen the recent craze for Adidas Sambas, but they are all the rage, and I never thought I would be able to find it in the thrift store. But I found these pair, and they were a super small size. They were 5.5, and they were $5, and they were kind of beat up, like definitely not in used condition. I just knew that this was like when Sambas like had first gotten super popular, so I was like, I'm just gonna pick it up, and it sold on Depop within 2 days for around $30. I was super happy about that. Then another pair of shoes that I found at the thrift and was super excited to sell on Depop was these, I might butcher it, Etienne Agner, and it was these black ballet flats, which are also super trendy right now. And they're made in Italy, and I made $42.50 on them. They're kind of just an unassuming shoe, so I'm glad I picked it up. Then we have a Goodwill bins find, which I haven't gone to the bins in a while, so I don't really have any recent ones from there, and I think I've pretty much sold off all the stuff that I've gotten from the bins. I was super excited to find this beautiful teal blue Fair Isle Sundance sweater for, I think it's $1.60 maybe for my bins is weight per pound, and I sold for $40 pretty quickly. The same goes for this one that I found at a normal Goodwill by the brand Nuwari. I don't know what that is, but it says hand knit in Nepal, and it's this beautiful knit sweater that sold for $40. So every time I see a nice sweater, I always make sure I check for any holes, and if there isn't any, I love to pick it up. All right, and then we have an item that I regret that I didn't keep myself, but I saw that price tag and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to sell this. But because they were my size, but it is these Jenny Kane slip-on mules, and Jenny Kane is a super expensive brand. These probably retailed for a couple $100s, and they sold pretty quickly for $90. But I still kind of wish I kept them for myself, but it's too late now. And then another pickup that I love, just because it's so pretty, and I wish it was my size, but it was like an extra small petite. And it was this vintage LL Bean beautiful red sweater that it like photographed so well, and it was just super pretty. And of course it sold within like 2 days, $30, but I was just like so happy to pick this up just because it was so pretty. Next up, we got a great find of this Lulu's maxi dress, a velvet pink maxi dress, and I paid $1 because this was on clearance at the thrift store, and it sold for $63, which is a great profit margin, of course. I mean, that's cheaper than what I would have paid at the bins because it's just heavier than a pound. I love picking up maxi Lulu's dresses. They just sell super well. And you can find Lulu's pretty easily at the thrift, I would say, because it's pretty common. Next up, we got some cool like vintage Y2K LEI shoes, and I just thought they were so quirky that I had to pick them up. I didn't really know how they would sell, but they sold like within a week for $32. So I'm just happy I found someone who wanted these, but they had like a cutout as well in the heel. So just a fun shoe. Then a tried and true brand that I love finding, but this one just especially I thought was like cool, and there wasn't too many people selling this specific pattern, so I knew it would do well, as it did, and it sold really quick for $38 for this Abercrombie & Fitch floral dress. And I was super happy to find this new tag Free People cashmere cardigan. I feel like I don't find new tag Free People very often. It's usually used, so I was just kind of happy to find that. It retailed for $98, and I bought it for $5, and it sold for $40. Then a shoe brand that I've always heard of is Stuart Weitzman, which this boot probably retailed for like $600, and it was just a little bit beat up. Like it just had some like wear on the toes and whatnot, so it wasn't in like pristine condition, and it still sold for $40. I thought this was a great pickup. I was just super happy to sell ankle booties for $40 because it's not as popular of a style anymore. Then the next find is this Nubitag Camila Coelho, which is sold on Revolve, blouse top, and it's a crop top. And it sold for $55, which I think $55 for a shirt is just crazy. It was super pretty, but I was just like super happy about this sale. Then another piece that I have yet to find again, but it's super popular, is Faraday. And I found this dress for $6 and it sold super fast for $35. It was an extra small, so it was a smaller size as well. So I'm definitely hoping I can find Faraday again. Next up is something that usually doesn't happen to me, and that is finding a matching set. Because usually things get split up. The pants are going to be over here, the shirt's going to be over there. Someone finds the shirt and buys it. You're never going to be able to get the matching piece. So, but this one came out on a new rack. So it was together. Like, yes, finally a matching set. It was this pair of green figs scrub set. And turns out it was a discontinued color as well. So it sold the same day for $50. Which I think is really good for fig scrubs. We have another Amanda Upperchurch piece, and it's definitely older. It was new with tags, so it still had this super old tag. Leather on the front and then not leather on the back. And it was just like a skirt, and it sold for $60 on eBay, and I paid $3 for it. And at that thrift store, it says when that item was put out, and it was like put out like 3 months before I bought it, and I was like, how did no one buy this for 3 months? And then it sells for $60, so I was pretty happy about that. Then I also found at Goodwill these pair of Nike, I thought they were women's pants at the time, but after researching, they're actually men's pants, and it was like kind of utility pants. And Nike usually doesn't sell for very much. It sold for $55, so I think that's amazing for a pair of Nike pants. Same thing goes for these men's sweatpants. Never heard of the brand, but it's Lady White Co. And they were like super thick, high quality. And I was like, okay, this has to be something. And after looking it up, I got super excited because there's not much out there, but what has sold super well. And they sold for $81 on eBay, which I think is insane for a pair of gray sweatpants used. And they actually went through the international program to go to Canada, so they paid like a crazy amount for shipping as well. So I definitely have not seen that brand since. I think it's pretty rare, but I think that was a great find. Then we have the only Tory Burch that I found, and it is actually not a purse, but instead it was these flip-flops that were $3, and they sold for $32, which I think is pretty good for a pair of flip-flops. I would love to find more Tory Burch, but I was super excited to find that. And this one I just thought was super fun. I found it in the Goodwill bins, and it was this Miss Me mini skirt, like mini denim skirt, and I just thought it was so cute. And definitely on trend, so of course it's sold on Depop. I made $25, which is not a crazy amount, but when you paid like $1 for it, it's a pretty good profit margin. And I think it also went to New York, which makes sense as well. And another fun piece that I wasn't expecting to do so well was these Duluth Trading women's like gardening short overalls. They had like so many pockets, it was hilarious, but it sold within 2 days for $45. I just thought that was a super fun piece to pick up that I paid $4 for. Next up is a piece that I just thought was super interesting, and it is a Beyond Yoga piece, which does super well, and I actually love that brand. But this was Beyond the Bump, and I was like, is that Beyond Yoga? I didn't even know that they had maternity, but it was this maternity tank that was $2, and it sold the same day for $29. So I was just shocked to sell a tank top for that much on the same day. So if you find Beyond the Bump, get excited because it probably did do pretty well. I'm hoping I find a pair of leggings because then it'll probably sell for even more. Next up is a brand that I've never heard of, but it just felt so nice. So when I looked it up and saw that it was like super expensive, of course, I was happy. And it is Totem. And it was these jeans, and they sold for $70. And I don't look through the purses as much as I should, but the day I did look at these, it was this brown leather purse that was kind of beat up, and I was like, what is this? But I was kind of intrigued, and I opened it and I saw it was a Dooney and Burke purse, which is like a designer purse, more of a classic style, more vintage, and this was definitely a vintage one because it had like a flip phone sized phone holder on the inside. After even being beat up, it sold for $50 within a week. So I'm really hoping I can find another Dooney and Burke purse. Then we have an expensive shoe brand that I saw and I was like, oh wow, I never thought I would see that, but it's AGL, and it was these red patent loafers that sold for $40, and I paid six or $7 for it. And another pair of shoes was these Everlane brown leather shoes, and they look like they've never been worn or very rarely worn, and again sold for $40. And a fun item, I don't find very many vintage sweatshirts, and I wish I found more because they're so cool and they do really well on Depop. One was a Dallas Cowboys one. I made $33 on it, so I definitely want to find more vintage sweatshirts because they're just really cool and like high quality. Then a super surprising find was this Quinty Peruvian cardigan. It was just a cool pattern, but unexpectedly it sold for $90 on eBay. So I don't know if I'll find this brand again, but it definitely was super fun. Then another item was a super small size. I think it was like a size 6 maybe, and it was these Harley Davidson Moto ankle boots. They were super grungy. Like I feel like boots like these would be pretty beat up because they're used for riding, but these were in great condition and they sold for $70, which I think is amazing. Yeah, those are just some of the ones. When looking back through, I remember I was just super excited to find them, and they sold super well. There's definitely way more on this list, but that's what I picked for today. Let me know down in the comments if there's a piece that you found that you were super excited and it sold like super well. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.